Hi everyone, glad you're here with me this evening. Well, it's evening here. Imagine you might see this tomorrow. So, this is Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead, and I'm continuing on with the story, The Mystery of the Black Hole Mine. So yesterday, on chapter 7, Sharp Words Between Friends, DJ spoke pretty harshly to Alfred. And in the end, Alfred took off walking. And when DJ called, he said, "Trying to find my best friend. I haven't seen him for a while." So you could tell Alfred was pretty upset about this. Chapter 8, a second sharp disagreement. For a moment, DJ stared at his best friend. In all the time the boys had known each other, they'd never had a crossword. DJ was surprised at how he felt about the gold. He had never before felt anything that came close to greed, coveting, or even selfishness. Yet somehow the desire for the gold was strange and powerful, making DJ say and do things that were really unlike him. Slowly he followed his friend back toward their father's, where they had agreed to meet them. As DJ walked, he imagined himself entering the lost mine and finding gold everywhere. Nuggets lay like marbles ready to be picked up. Then his thoughts jumped. Nuggets weren't found in hard rock passageways. He imagined reaching for a vein of quartz where the gold ran like a golden thread, but the gold vanished. DJ shook his head to drive away the thought. Well, if he found lots of gold, he'd give some to Alfred. Maybe not, though. Sharing gold wasn't like dividing candy or an apple or an orange. Of course, it would be different with his family, DJ thought. He'd give them everything they needed, and Dad wouldn't even have to work anymore. So it didn't matter if the mill was closed. Maybe DJ would even hire all the unemployed lumber workers in Stony Ridge to work his mine. Maybe he'd even need to hire people from Indian Springs. Or maybe, he told himself sadly, it'll turn out to be a big nothing, and there won't be any more gold. As he passed the hardware store, he stopped to look through the windows at some items displayed there. Maybe for Christmas he'd get Dad one of those electric saws so he could make things in the garage. Mom would like that. The boy's thoughts were snapped off when he caught a sudden movement reflected in the glass window. Lots of people were going up and down the street under the Christmas decorations. Yet DJ's sharp eyes, trained to spot wild creatures moving quietly in the woods, caught something unusual. A man across the street and some distance back suddenly turned into an alley. The boy whirled around, but the man was gone. DJ frowned, wondering, had that been just some innocent person changing his mind and ducking down the alley as a shortcut to somewhere? Or had somebody been following Alfred and him, somebody who didn't want to be seen? DJ felt goosebumps crinkle the skin on his forearms. He ran to catch up with Alfred, ignoring the strained relationship between them. "I think somebody's following us," DJ said. Alfred replied promptly, seeming anxious to forget the little tiff they just had. "Oh, who?" "I don't know," DJ quickly explained about the suspicious man he'd seen reflected in the store windows. Alfred pushed back his thick glasses with an automatic thrust of his right thumb. "Think he'll try to follow us home? Find out where we live?" DJ pursed his lips thoughtfully. "He might, but darkness comes early, so he might not be able to do it. Taillights in these twisting mountain roads would be hard to follow back to Stony Ridge. But he might be able to do it, Alfred insisted. DJ, I don't mind telling you, it's spooky having these things happen since you, found the. Alfred glanced around anxiously. The boys walked on together, talking to ease the tension that had sprung up between them such a short time before. You know, Alfred, since Jawbone Ridge is on BLM land, and I'd have to go to Sacramento to find out about filing the claim, I'd better be sure there's really gold in that mine. Alfred stopped dead still in the sidewalk so a woman with an armload of packages almost bumped into him. You mean go past the place where that dart was fired at us and into the mine itself? It's the only way, Alfred. I've got to know for sure what's there. I mean, if we found nuggets and that's not what comes from an underground mine, Alfred interrupted fiercely. You heard what the editor said. Old mines are dangerous. It's worth the risk, Alfred. Maybe, if there's gold. But if it turns out that you've already found all that there is, and you go down to that old spooky mine alone, DJ broke in. You could come with me. No way. Alfred shook his head so hard his glasses almost flew off his head. Then I'll go by myself, DJ said firmly. You're not talking like yourself, DJ. Maybe you've got gold fever or something. Whatever you do, don't do that. Alfred's voice rose sharply. Shh. DJ cautioned as the boys neared their father's, waiting at the Free City parking lot. Our dads will hear us. Maybe they should, Alfred said defiantly. What you're planning is dangerous. You promised, DJ hissed. You can't tell anyone. I only promised about the nuggets, not about some dumb thing like going into the mine. It's the same thing, Alfred. No, it's not. What if something happens to you? Nothing's going to happen. Besides, I'm doing it for my family. Alfred's right hand came up in an automatic movement. He pushed the thick glasses higher up on the bridge of his nose before asking softly, Are you, DJ? For a moment, DJ glanced thoughtfully at his friend. If you won't go with me, you can't have any of the gold. I haven't got any so far anyway. DJ abruptly walked away from Alfred. DJ knew he shouldn't be angry with his best friend, but DJ was, and he tried to tell himself he was justified. He told himself fiercely, It'll be mine alone, and why shouldn't it be? I found it. If Alfred would go into the mine with me and help, he could have some gold. But if I have to take all the risk myself, no. Their second sharp disagreement caused a strained silence to settle over both boys on the drive home. Their fathers didn't seem to notice. Their quietness told the boys what they needed to know. Neither man had found work or any signs that were hopeful. It was almost painful for DJ to sit beside his best friend in the back seat of the King Cab pickup and not talk. DJ tried to think of other things. He tried to remember the man's reflection in the store window. The boy glanced back from time to time as their truck started climbing towards Stony Ridge. Mr. Milford drove slowly, his headlights on against the early darkness. Some cars passed in the few turnouts on the narrow mountain road. Now, turnout is where there's like a little extra lane made on the right-hand side. If you're going slower, you pull into that so that people can go around you. They were climbing back to the snow line. Dirty snow reflected the headlights back from the sides of the road. Evergreen trees glistened on the hillside. DJ's ears popped from the change in altitude. After a while, he thought one car's headlights kept well behind the Milford's vehicle, neither gaining nor falling behind. When Alfred's father turned off the state highway onto the surface streets of Stony Ridge, DJ felt sure there was a car following them. Ordinarily, he'd share his thoughts with Alfred, but DJ didn't feel like talking. It was full dark when Mr. Milford pulled up in front of DJ's home. DJ felt miserable because of the disagreement with his friend. To ease his misery, DJ told himself he had a right to be angry with Alfred. Deep inside, DJ knew he wasn't behaving properly. It wasn't Christian. DJ knew that, but he didn't allow himself to dwell on that thought. The boys exchanged polite, reserved good nights and parted with their personal problems unresolved. As the Milfords drove away, DJ saw a pair of headlights come on about 2 blocks away. Coincidence? DJ followed his father from the sidewalk to the front steps. When Dad opened the door, DJ saw the car come even with the Dillons' house. The boy tried to see inside the darkened vehicle, but it was useless. DJ didn't recognize the sedan. It climbed steadily on up the hill the way the Milfords had driven. DJ went inside without being sure whether somebody had followed him home or not. The boy felt tension growing inside. Nothing was going right. In fact, everything seemed to be getting worse. Two Mom had supper ready. After Pris asked the blessing, Two Mom started passing the steaming dishes. "Well," she said cheerfully, "just because the Lord didn't provide a job right away doesn't mean anything. Tomorrow's another day. So, right after the dishes are washed up, let's put up the Christmas decorations." Pris's mop of wild brown hair bobbed as she looked up sharply from her plate. "We don't have a tree yet." "We'll do without this year," Two Mom said quietly. "We'll decorate the rest of the house." "Mom, we could cut down one of the wild trees. There are zillions of them on every hill around here." "It's against the law, Pris. There are only certain places you can cut trees, and you need a permit. So we'll just do without a Christmas tree this year. DJ, you can help with the ladder to get the tinsel around the ceiling light fixture." "I don't feel like putting up decorations tonight," DJ answered softly. He reluctantly took a scoop of Brussels sprouts because Two Mom had a 3-bite rule. Everyone had to eat 3 mouthfuls of everything, even if the family member hated that particular food. "It'll be fun," Two Mom insisted. She passed seconds of freshly baked buns around in a wicker basket. "Won't it, Priscilla?" "I made something at school," the 9-year-old stepsister said brightly. "It's a surprise." "Could I put it up first? In the front window?" "Why not?" Two Mom said. "DJ, since this is our first Christmas together as family, do you have a favorite decoration or something?" The boy poured white vinegar over the hated Brussels sprouts. He'd have preferred mayonnaise, but his stepmom had strict ideas on nutrition. I've got a little tree I made in first grade. Mom always... His voice trailed off, thinking about his dead mother. Two Moms seemed to understand. She said cheerfully, I like the manger scene best. Makes me think how the real one must have been that night long ago in Bethlehem. Sam, what's your favorite? Dad didn't answer. He chewed in silence, his eyes on the bowl of red beans before him. Two Mom tried again. Sam, it's always hard to be the father in a time like this. But our Heavenly Father cares just as you do. He'll... Dad interrupted sharply. I know that, Hannah. But until some money comes into this house again, I'm going to be a little uptight, okay? Two Mom replied softly. I wasn't going to say anything just now, but when Pris and I walked downtown today, I learned there's a part-time waitress job open. Pris let out a wail. I don't want you to go to work again. You promised when you got married to Dad Dillon you'd stay home. Two Mom reached out with her left hand and squeezed her daughter's forearm. It may be necessary for a while, Pris. We all have to do what we can, sometimes, like now. DJ nodded thoughtfully. That's right, he told himself with fresh resolve. And I've got to go check out that mine. Then I'll know whether we're rich or not. He tried not to think about the dangers awaiting him back at Jawbone Ridge. And that's the end of chapter 8. So I guess he's made up his mind. I'm not sure it's the best idea, but we'll see how it works out, I guess. All right, this is Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I want to pray blessings on you and yours, in your house, out of your house, in the day and the night. Whatever you do, keep dreaming and keep a story in your heart. All right, bye for now.